I thought, what better job opportunity could I get?
Because you could do it anywhere you wanted, at the beach, which you did a lot that summer, in between volleyball.
In between playing volleyball at the beach.
Yeah.
I could write this book, and it was, I don't know if I would say a dream of mine, but it was an ideal way to utilize the gifts that the Lord had given me and the passions that I have.
Hey, welcome to the My Place podcast. If you're used to watching our episodes, it's a little bit different in this one in that normally Mary starts off the podcast, and what normally happens is she has a list of questions for me on the topic as we have been going through our book over the past previous months. But last week's podcast, you interviewed me on kind of my involvement with PLACE from the very beginning. And so tonight, I'm going to interview you on your evolution with PLACE, your involvement. And as I was telling a church today, I'm probably as excited about this podcast as any that we've ever done, because I'm excited to hear what you say. I took your cue as the C personality, and I've got 5 questions. Now, they may dive into others or may evolve into others, but I've come up, taken my little C personality daughter, and wrote some questions. So here's my first one to you, Mary. Talk about your earliest memories and involvement with PLACE and the tool.
My earliest memories with the tool. Let's see. I have a very vivid but somewhat blurry memory in your office. I want to say I was maybe 7 or 8. I may have been
6.
I may have been 6. I may have been able to read the assessment at that point, but I vividly remember me and my sister Maggie sitting there with you reading us the questions, and we were just giving you the answer that we chose out of the A, B, C, or D. And I remember there were certain times where I would think about it and I didn't know what the answer I wanted to give was. And I would say, well, Dad, what do you think? And you said, no, don't overthink it. This is for you to answer. You just come up with the best answer that you have. And I remember feeling so frustrated that y'all didn't give me the answer and tell me, well, what do you think I am?
You mean a 6 or 7-year-old is supposed to be told the answers, right?
Yes, but y'all let us figure it out. And so my earliest memory is of y'all assessing us at a really young age. And since then, it just was a language that we used in our house. I had a relative understanding of what the DISC personality styles stood for because you and Mom used it as a language that you used to discuss each other, discuss us, discuss other people. And so it was just a language that was very familiar to me. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting older, I started to become more and more familiar just with what it meant for other people and what it meant for me to be a C personality. And it helped me to grow in my awareness of myself and understanding of myself, my understanding of other people. And it was just an awareness and a knowledge that I carried around with me. I think my next very vivid memory of it was my sophomore year of high school. I was going to the Dominican Republic.
Can I say one more thing about those earliest memories? We did the spiritual gift assessment too. I think we just did the personality and gifts. You scored out then as a C, and you've stayed consistent with that your entire life since we started looking at you. When we did the spiritual gifts, it was knowledge, wisdom, and teaching as a 7-year-old. And you have stayed true to that. So that's one of the cool things I think of about starting early with you is we had that baseline and you've stayed the same the whole time.
In psychology, they would call that a longitudinal study where you take one subject over a prolonged period of time and study one subject with regards to that person, and you get a baseline and then you see how they change or how they stay the same over time. So it's a real life example of the validity of the tool, I think, because it has been accurate all of these years.
Yeah.
But my next memory of my use of the tool was that trip to the DR. And it's not necessarily that I use the tool, but it reflects this lasting interest that I've always had in understanding how people are wired. Because while some people brought books to read on the plane, I brought my PLACE workbook. And I remember sitting in the plane, sitting in our hotel room when we had downtime, and I would just read through the supplemental material because I found it fascinating understanding how I was wired and getting to understand other people through that lens and through that platform. So I've always just had this proclivity and interest towards understanding how I'm wired, how other people are wired. I think it was my junior year of high school, I started reading the Understanding How Others Misunderstand You, which is a book that uses the DISC model that we recommend as a resource for people to use to understand DIS and C. But I remember I would bring it to school. I would bring it on the bus to away games to read on the way there. And I just remember making notes and poring over that book, making annotations, trying to figure out, I see this in that person. I see this in me. How can I apply this to my life? So there was always this natural gravitation towards understanding myself and how the Lord wired me, but also understanding other people. And it was a way that you and Mom, I think, taught me to understand other people. I remember conversations with Mom about friendships and trying to understand, why was I disappointed by this person? Why are they acting like that? And why am I disappointed? Why are they not meeting my expectations? And understanding how I approach friendships, understanding other people and their tendencies. It was a way that y'all taught me to interact with other people, to understand them, to appreciate their strengths and give grace for their weaknesses. So I would say those are my earliest memories, is as a tool in my toolbox, as a language that we used to help me understand myself and to help other people understand themselves, but to help me understand them as well.
Yeah. So here's the second question. When did you first serve with me in PLACE, and what were some of the roles that you had as you served? Because we're starting to get a little bit of history, even though you're only 22. What are some of the roles, and what are your first memories of actually serving with PLACE Ministries and me?
What I think is so interesting about that question, and you mentioned earlier that I've always been a C personality, and I've always scored high in wisdom, knowledge, and teaching. And even before my first memories of officially serving with PLACE, I remember opportunities that I evaluated and stepped into through the lens of my gifts and through the lens of my personality. In middle school, I was on the FCA leadership team. And so there was a couple times every year where I got the opportunity to speak at FCA. In high school, I was on the FCA leadership team. I remember speaking there. I remember in the Dominican Republic, I got to speak at a church one night. And I think those planted the seeds that would have give me the opportunity and the experience to equip me to be able to serve with you when I did get to in high school. And even in addition to the opportunity and in the experience, what I remember about you and Mom is that you weren't just encouraging me that this is great, you're speaking, you're sharing your testimony, you're serving the Lord and being willing to step into these opportunities. But one of the principles of discovering your gifts that we talk about all the time is to explore opportunities, expect confirmation from the body, to evaluate your feelings and evaluate your motives. And without even doing it on purpose, I explored opportunities to use what I knew the Lord had gifted me with wisdom, knowledge, and teaching. So I had opportunities that I explored that I said yes to, but then I got affirmation and confirmation from y'all, not just saying, great job for being willing to do this, but this is what's in line with your gifts, your inclination and your desire to learn and to find the depth of knowledge, to teach people, to apply, to be able to speak into their lives. Y'all affirmed me in those ways, which gave me the confidence and the desire to continue to pursue the ways that the Lord had wired me and to demonstrate and express my gifts in those ways. And so the Lord was planting seeds in my life through opportunities and experiences that He allowed me to step into. And y'all affirmed those gifts through your affirmation and your validation before you ever asked me to come teach and talk with you. But I think my first time that I ever taught with you, I want to say was in high school. I think it was when we taught that young adult class. And we taught on spiritual gifts. And I remember we got in the car that Sunday afternoon and you said, Mary, how do you think it went? And I said, Honestly, Dad, I think you could have given me more. I think you could have given me more to talk about.
Yeah. I remember on the way home from that.
Yes, but I think that's my first, you might remember something even before that, but that was my first memory of getting to do something with you, was teaching that class. And I remember how much I enjoyed it. One of those principles is to evaluate your feelings, evaluate your motives. Did you enjoy doing it again? Mom always asked me, would you do it again? Regardless of the stress that led up to it, regardless of what you had to do to get there, did you enjoy it once you were there, and would you want to do it again? And thinking about that first time that you let me teach with you, I just remember knowing I'm using the gifts that the Lord gave me to honor him and to pursue his kingdom. But what a blessing and gift from him that I got to enjoy it. And I didn't serve because I had to. I served because I got to, and it was in line with who I was and who he created me to be. And just the feeling of joy knowing that I'm doing something that has eternal value and that the Lord created me to do. And so I don't just remember what I did. I remember the way that it made me feel, and knowing that I did this because of how the Lord wired me, and I could do it because he empowered me to do so. And I think that was the first time that I remember serving with you. And after that, there was a couple other opportunities where I got to speak.
What about when we shot the videos of them?
Yes, that was
Spiritual Gifts Practically Explained.
Yeah, that was
High school?
that was my senior year of high school.
Okay.
It was the fall of my senior year because I graduated in December. But we shot those videos of the Spiritual Gifts Explained. And that was the first somewhat official time that we did something that was being put together for PLACE.
And what I'm really pumped about is we're about to reshoot it again. And if you go back to 4 years ago when we did it, it's going to be a lot better this time.
I hope so.
We've done it quite a bit together. And again, it was somewhat like that first Sunday coming home where you said, I can do a lot more. You kind of teed it up for me to talk, but the way we've been doing it recently is I kind of tee it up for you to do the explanation. So that was cool. Okay, next remembrance you have in your role.
I think the next one would have been once I got to Samford. There were a couple of trips that we took where I got to speak with you on spiritual gifts. We went out to Gateway.
Gateway Seminary.
We spoke with some college students. And so I had different opportunities here and there to get to speak and to teach with you. And then we started the podcast. I think my third semester, about halfway through my time at Samford, and we did that for a little bit. So my earliest roles really were in line with my spiritual gifts. They were in line with my passions and my interests. And you gave me the opportunity to explore that and to get experience doing those things and to get to enjoy something that I was passionate about. So I think those would be my earliest memories.
And I think one of my really fondest memories that I have is the last 2 years. We have a mentoring program with students at Samford and the Atlanta Braves, where I've served now for 15 years. In the last 2 years, you and I have got to tag team explaining a little bit of the tool to the executives with the Braves along with the students. And so that's because I've served so long there, and I've been so proud to take you into that environment and let you just kind of go. So before you officially became an employee of PLACE Ministries, we had one other role that you did that we've been talking about in our previous podcast. So what was that role? And then we're going to look to what made you graduating from college say, I want to start. I mean, you could have gone anywhere other than I'm your dad. What made you want to start your career here? But talk about the last role, your last year of college that we did.
Yes, it was the summer of my going into my senior year, and I was looking for a job because they give you 4 months to just go do whatever you want to do, figure out whether you're going to go have fun somewhere and have a summer, or if you're going to do something that's going to further your career. So I was trying to figure out a productive way to spend my summer, and I was looking into some different opportunities that were in line with what I thought I wanted to do. If I ended up coming to work for you, that would prepare me and equip me in a different place. So I remember calling you one night and telling you, Dad, I have a Google Doc of all the options that I'm looking at. And I know you know some of these people, so maybe you could give them a call. And you said, actually, I want you to add something else to your list. I've been working on this book that I have a title for and a couple chapters, but I want you to take the summer and to finish this book.
That'd be your full-time job for
That'd
the
be my
summer.
full-time job that summer. And so knowing myself, knowing what I was interested in, my personality, my spiritual gifts, even my abilities, being conventional but also investigative, meaning that I like to analyze and solve problems with my mind, I thought, what better job opportunity could I get?
Because you could do it anywhere you wanted, at the beach, which you did a lot that summer, in between volleyball.
In between playing volleyball at the beach.
Yeah.
I could write this book, and it was, I don't know if I would say a dream of mine, but it was an ideal way to utilize the gifts that the Lord had given me and the passions that I have. And you gave me that opportunity and that platform to do so. And it was such a cool opportunity to have the chance to put my thoughts on paper and to compose something that could be helpful for people and to get to do something that I enjoyed, but also knowing that I get to put this together and it could help other people. My words and my thoughts could edify and encourage someone else. And that was such a cool opportunity for me. So that was the last role that I had, I would say.
And I remember we had a little snafu as we were trying to get it going. And talk about how we really, because I understood you, and I feel like that's the value of understanding the tool and the elements in it. When you sense somebody is stuck, sometimes we just like push the person, what's wrong with you? But I understood. So tell about how we had to work through it wasn't a challenge, but it was a challenge. So talk about that for just a minute.
Yeah, we had to figure out what environment would be the best place for me to produce what we needed to produce, essentially, the book. But you gave me the title, you gave me 2 chapters, I think, and other than that, you said just to go for it. There was a blank slate. And for people who are the artistic ability in the PLACE profile, who
that'd be like, yes,
there's no structure.
Whatever I want.
There's no structure. There's no rules. So they would feel like they had the world at their fingertips. And I felt, without realizing it, I felt overwhelmed because I had all these thoughts, but I had no direction.
And you put a lot of them on paper, I remember.
I did. Yeah. I would have paragraphs here, thoughts here, a Venn diagram here. And I had all of these thoughts, but they were so spread out and they needed some direction. And because I am investigative in my ability, so I like analyzing and solving complex problems with my mind, I'm also conventional, which means that I like structure and I like to know what is expected of me. And so because I didn't have the structure of deadlines or even an outline to follow, I didn't have the structure I needed to move forward in the problem that I was solving. And I think that's also why I like school so much, is because I have a rubric, I have the word count, the font size, the deadline of when my thesis is due, when my outline is due, when the final paper is due. And I could move through that structured environment very well and very efficiently, but I had no structure for this, and you knew that. And so when I sent you all of these thoughts that weren't really going anywhere, they were just very hypothetical thoughts going in all different directions, you said, Mary, these are really good. But next week, I want you to come up with a table of contents and send it to me. And that was all the structure, all the direction that I needed to funnel my thoughts into a direction that I needed to go in to move forward. And I think even within a couple of days, I had a table of contents for you, which was essentially the outline of the book. I had the chapters, the topics we were going to talk about. And from then you said, okay, every 2 weeks, turn in a chapter. Every 1 to 2 weeks, turn in a chapter, and whatever you have by the end of the week, whether it's a full chapter or what you have so far, turn it into me. So that gave me the deadline. That gave me the structure and the expectation I needed to funnel my thoughts towards a goal and towards a destination so that I wasn't paralyzed by my own analysis of the problem, but I knew what was expected of me. So I was working towards an expectation and a goal rather than just giving free range to just let my thoughts go wherever I wanted to. They were funneled into a direction that helped me to move forward.
And pretty much you wrote the book that summer, and I started sometimes adding a story here or making a little tweak here. But you pretty much wrote it. I think we had a little bit in the fall, but it was pretty much a summer project, and you got through it. Okay, so we're moving through college. I remember this very vividly. All through the years, we had talked about you possibly working with PLACE, but nothing definitive. And it's your senior year, 2023, and that, yes, it's the fall, I think August 2023. And I decided that this would not be a phone conversation, but I drove over there for one purpose, for you and I to go have a late lunch, early dinner. And that's when I asked, pretty much, would you want to go to work with PLACE full time, and what would that look like for you? So why did you choose PLACE, no pun intended, right out of your college career to say this would be a good place for me to start?
It's interesting as I was reflecting back on that decision and what led up to it, how the Lord plants seeds through different people and in different conversations over the years that leave an impact on our hearts and our minds without us realizing what will come of it. And I remember it was after my freshman year at Samford. I was on a trip with with Maggie, my sister, with my cousin. Our Aunt Sharon had taken us on a trip. And I remember we were sitting at the beach, we were all having lunch, and Aunt Sharon asked us all what we wanted to do with our lives. And I remember Maggie had a very specific answer. Madeline had a very specific answer. And I said, I just want to help people. And she said, well, yes, Mary. And she said this in a very kind way, in a very encouraging way. She said, everybody wants to help people, and everyone's job helps people in a different way. But how are you going to do that tangibly? How are you going to tangibly do what your heart desires to do? Because at a very high level, I said, I want to help people to be more effective and fulfilled in their life by understanding who they are and capitalizing on the way that they're wired so that they can be and do all that they desire to do and feel effective and fulfilled in their life. So I had this very high level idea of what I wanted to do. And over the years, I would go through seasons of, I think I could do it in this way. I think I could pursue that through this platform. I think I could go through all of these years of school and get this job or pursue this career. So there was always different ideas that I had of how I could do that. But on my heart, there was this very high level, tangible idea that I want to help people be more effective and fulfilled in their life by understanding who they are, because that is the experience and the passion that the Lord has laid on my heart and throughout my whole life. And we had that conversation, and I realized that that's not the only answer that I can have. I need to figure out a tangible way to pursue the desire and the passion that I have for other people. And so as I went through college, I had ideas here and there, and I realized every year you have to be a little bit more specific with the answer that you give. That's your freshman year, you can get away with that answer, but going into
you can change your major or whatever.
You can change your major, you can get some different internships, but every year the pressure is on you a little bit more to figure out, okay, but what are you actually going to do? And so I had this desire, I had this passion for other people. And as the Lord brought different conversations, gave me different opportunities, honestly, PLACE gave me the platform, the most tangible platform to do what I wanted to do and to do what I was passionate about. There's a lot of ways that I could have pursued that passion in different ways, but the Lord gave that platform. And it seems simple to me because, yeah, obviously he opened that door for you because this is your dad. But I think the Lord opens different doors for different people. He walks us through different experiences of life for different reasons. One of my most prominent experiences of life is growing up around PLACE. Yeah. And that is the way that he orchestrated my life experiences. Those are the doors that he opened for me. And it was a very tangible way to pursue what I was passionate about. It lined up with my personality. It lined up with my spiritual gifts, what I was passionate about, what I had experienced in life. So I evaluated the opportunities through the lens of who I was. And my logical conclusion was, this is the platform that will give me the opportunity to pursue the things that I'm passionate about.
You know, I did not know that Aunt Sharon question. Have you ever told her how impactful that was to her?
I don't know if I have.
But that's just like, we're going to talk the last question. How do people, figure out what they want to do and use a tool, like PLACE to figure it out? Being aware of those that's a life experience marker for you, which is the last element of PLACE. And I think if so many people go back looking at what they want to do, questions like what Aunt Sharon asked you are vital. Okay, because we're running out of time. This is going so fast. I can't believe how fast this one's going. What are some short range and long range goals for you with PLACE?
This is another answer that I hope appeases the question. But honestly, when I think about my long-term goals, it's really just, my goal is to figure out what the Lord's goal is for my life. Mm-hmm. And that seems, again, like a very high-level question. And I think for some people, they have a very tangible and very direct goal. They want to be a nurse. They want to be a teacher. They want to do all of these very specific things. And that is what a blessing that that's what the Lord has laid on their heart. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, when I thought about what is my goal is, and I always go back to this verse, a man plans his ways, but the Lord establishes his steps. And it says in other places that his ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. He has good works prepared beforehand for us to do. And when I think about my goals for my career, I really think about my mind really goes more to, Lord, what are your goals for my career? Mm-hmm. What are your goals for my life? What can I pursue that I would be the most effective for your kingdom in light of who I am? And what would you have for me? Because I know what you have for me is so much better than what I could ever imagine for myself. So when I think about my goals, I think about what are the ways that I could be the most impactful in other people's lives. And if that is being able to teach, if that's being able to speak or to write, then I want to pursue that to the best of my abilities. And I want to craft that art into a way that would be helpful for people and to speak into their lives. And however I can pursue the things that the Lord has gifted me in and demonstrate my gifts in the most effective way possible, that's my goal. And whatever the Lord has for me and whatever other doors that he opens, I want to pursue what his goals are for my life.
Yeah. You know what I find interesting? The Bible doesn't say to not plan your way. A man plans his steps. The Lord ordains their path. So I think God wants us to plan, and that is to do what we're supposed to do today. And one of my favorite, in what you just said, is Jeremiah 29:11. And a lot of people don't quote Jeremiah 29:5. People say, I know the Lord says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, to give you a hope, to give you a future. Everybody loves that part, the future. But a lot of people don't even know what Jeremiah 29:5 says. I bet most people watching this don't know that verse. But what Jeremiah was telling those people to do, remember, they were in slavery. He was telling them to plant and to build where they are. You do what you're supposed to do today, and that is to learn how to communicate effectively, the platform that you have today, be content with that, and then God will have the future. He has the plans in the future, and you just got to walk with him for that. Okay, last question as we coming down. Boy, these go fast, don't they? What are some insights about your journey in coming to PLACE that could help others in choosing their career path? And I may answer some of that too, but I want to hear your thoughts on how could your path and what you've said help other people as they're looking at their path?
I think one of the most tangible things that PLACE has helped me to do is to evaluate who I am and to evaluate opportunities that are brought before me. And I'm able to evaluate those opportunities because I have an awareness of who I am, because I know my spiritual gifts, because I know the environment in which I'm going to flourish, because I'm aware of what I'm passionate about and who I'm passionate for. And because of that awareness, I have the ability to evaluate opportunities and let my yes be yes and my no be no. And even without a very tangible direction of this is exactly what I wanted to do with my life, as opposed to what some people have, like, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a teacher. It gave me the opportunity and the ability to evaluate what is the best thing to do with the opportunities that I have right in front of me, and with the doors that are in front of me, which one should I walk through? What are the doors that the Lord's opening for me? What are the doors that the Lord is closing? So I think for other people, I would say having an awareness of who you are gives you the ability to evaluate opportunities and let your yes be yes and your no be no. But at the same time, I think there's a trust and a willingness to look at what doors the Lord is opening for you. A lot of the reasons why I'm where I am this year and right now is because the Lord opened a door that I never even knocked on. And I evaluated that opportunity and in faith stepped through the threshold, because I knew that it was in line with who I was. And I knew that the Lord knew so much better about the doors that he wanted me to walk through. And so sometimes he opens doors that you've been walking towards your whole life. Sometimes he opens doors that you never expected to walk through. But the ability to evaluate what door to walk through and what door to knock on oftentimes comes from having an awareness of yourself, and at the same time trusting that the Lord knows so much better what he has for you and has such better plans than you could ever expect or imagine for yourself.
I love what you said. You talked a lot about knowing yourself. I think what I'd like to say to people that are trying to pick that career path is exactly what you said, but what so many people do is they look out before they look at themselves. So many people are listening to other voices, what other people perceive of them, what they want for them, what they feel like will give them image, instead of starting, you said it over and over, you start with you. And I find that seems so common sense, but yet sometimes common sense is just not put into practice. And so good for you at looking at you and knowing who you are and then saying, how could God use me based on me? And it's really exciting, even for me as your dad, to hear that all that has been poured into you is coming to fruition, even from those early days sitting in my office and 6, 7, 8, whatever your age was. So I hope that for those of you that are watching this, you'll take a lot of Mary's story and say, how does that apply to my life and me picking where God wants me, whether it be a career, whether it be if you're serving in ministry, because it does start with knowing who you are and then allowing the Lord to direct your path based on who you are. So, Mary, this went really fast. And so thank you for making this an easy one to do, because you are so articulate to me. And I love hearing how you put together what we do every week, but especially put together you. So hope you'll join us next time. And we're going to change a little direction in the coming weeks on what our podcasts have been.